More than 4 years, the automaker CEO seeming to break ranks with much of corporate America right now, delivering some harsh words about President Trump's tariff plans.
They're not made in the United States. If they're made in the United States, there's absolutely no.
More than 4 years ago, the auto industry began facing a crisis that few truly predicted. At the center of it was a controversial trade policy from Washington, a 25% tariff on any car or part imported from outside the United States. The idea was simple: protect American jobs by making it more costly to build abroad.
A 25% tariff on all cars that are not made in the United States. If they're made in the United States, there's absolutely no tariff.
But the results were anything but simple. It started quietly in Detroit. Executives and union leaders spoke in hushed tones about the impact on their factories. But those private fears soon turned public. Ford, one of America's most iconic automakers, was the first to announce drastic measures. In May 2025, Ford shocked the country by shutting down some of its most famous production lines. The Chicago facility, home to the Explorer and the Lincoln Aviator, went silent. Michigan Assembly, where the Bronco and Ranger had been rolling out, stopped production. Thousands of workers were sent home with no clear timeline for returning. The cause was clear. Tariffs that were meant to protect had instead become a burden. Parts from China, Mexico, and Canada now cost significantly more. The 25% import tax on these components didn't just hit foreign competitors, it struck right at the heart of American factories. Ford soon revealed the financial damage, over $1.5 billion in expected losses for 2025 alone. That level of cost increase simply couldn't be absorbed without major changes. And Ford wasn't the only one. Across the Midwest, other automakers scrambled to react. General Motors made sudden changes to production schedules, laying off workers and even shifting truck assembly back to Indiana to avoid cross-border costs. Stellantis, the parent company of Chrysler and Dodge, temporarily idled factories in Canada and Mexico. The pain didn't stop at assembly plants. In Michigan and Indiana, hundreds of workers at supplier factories lost their jobs overnight. Morale in the industry plummeted. Dealerships felt the squeeze too, as prices rose sharply. Ford tried to adapt quickly. They raised prices on models made in Mexico, like the Bronco Sport and Maverick, by nearly $2,000 to offset the new tariff costs. Customers felt the pinch immediately, and sales suffered. Even more drastic measures followed. Employee pricing, normally reserved for special promotions, was extended to all buyers in a desperate attempt to keep sales going. But these moves only bought time. Meanwhile, parts imported from China, from steel to electronics, were also hit with tariffs of up to 30%, pushing costs even higher. Ford's CEO, Jim Farley, tried to frame it as an opportunity to make competition fairer. But internally, the company was revising forecasts downward, cutting costs, and bracing for more layoffs. And it wasn't just Ford feeling the pressure. GM's Fort Wayne truck plant tried to ramp up local production, adding a shift and hiring 200 workers to offset the tariffs' effects. It worked temporarily, but executives knew this was a short-term fix. Other companies responded by canceling orders or slowing shipments. Nissan cut U.S. orders for Mexico-built SUVs. Toyota reduced deliveries. Honda raised prices. By April, new car prices jumped more than 2.5% in a single month, the largest increase in years. Dealerships warned of thin inventory, and buyers rushed to sign before the next price hike. Communities reliant on factory jobs felt the fallout hard. Towns that had survived previous downturns now saw entire shifts erased. Grocery stores, diners, and repair shops all lost business when those paychecks disappeared. Local and state leaders sounded the alarm. Governors held emergency meetings, mayors pleaded for relief. But the federal government stood firm. The administration insisted that short-term pain would lead to long-term gain as companies reshored production. Meanwhile, Wall Street grew wary. Auto company stocks fell, supplier shares plunged. Analysts warned that if tariffs remained, the industry could see over 1 million lost vehicle sales in just a year. And the consequences went beyond U.S. borders. China responded with its own tariffs on American vehicles, cutting off a major export market. Demand abroad shifted toward European and Korean brands, leaving American cars at a disadvantage. Through it all, workers asked the question no one wanted to answer. Was it worth it? The North American auto industry had become a highly integrated network over decades. with suppliers and factories spread across the US, Canada, and Mexico. These connections kept costs low and production flexible. Now that system was fracturing. Ford and GM couldn't simply uproot and relocate all production to the US overnight. Breaking those supply chains was expensive, complex, and risky. Yet the tariffs forced them to make exactly those decisions, sacrificing efficiency for survival. For every new job created in one plant, another seemed to vanish elsewhere. For every shift added in Indiana, one was lost in Ontario or Michigan. Political divisions deepened. Supporters of the policy called it necessary to protect American workers and industries. Critics said it was destroying them instead. And for those on the factory floor, the impact was personal. Their livelihoods were on the line, their communities were in jeopardy, and the future of an industry that had defined America for generations was suddenly uncertain. Because at the end of the day, this wasn't just about trade, it was about people, and whether the promise of America First would really deliver on its guarantees.